during 6:30, more or less. And also doing this via Zoom, so people who aren't here can listen in with us at the same time. And then there will also, this will be recorded in the same way, and it'll be available to review or listen to for the first time for those not here. So feedback is welcome. I'm Marta Manelli. For anybody who doesn't know, I've been serving as our presidentship here, and I will continue through the end of December. And in the meantime, we'll have elections. Oh, one thing I wanted to ask everybody is I sent out a letter to the membership. I had some trouble sending it from my computer at home. Did anybody here who is a member not receive that communication? Okay, so you saw it, and that's great. If anybody listening online is a member and didn't get it, please contact me and let me know that so we can try to work it out. And my email is mamanoldi@me.com. So one of the things mentioned in that letter is, I'm filling out because I kind of notes. It's a fundraising effort that is being organized widely in Southeast Michigan to raise money for the Michigan Land Conservancy to purchase the Sibley Prairie. And I had Amy Griffiths here, but I had a nice note from Amy today suggesting that we might become a partner to help in that fundraising effort. Working closely with the Wayne County Wild Ones. And there are some things we'd have to commit to if we did that, including active fundraising with an ambitious goal. So I don't know if we'll decide to do that or not, but that is something where I'd also really like to have input from people if you think that would be a worthwhile advocacy project. It is, does everybody know what Sibley Prairie is? And I won't there, but that's gonna, I think, become one of our priority items to consider in this. Good. Yes, any other announcements? No. I'm gonna turn this over to Meg Delaney for our presentation. Thanks, Meg. Thanks, Marta. Is this helpful? Same. That's for the online people. Oh. We can hear you just as you are. People. Okay. I am so glad to be with you here today. I'm a Wild Ones member. I'm secretary of the Ann Arbor group, and so happy to be part of this really interesting project. Right here. It's the most important thing. That address, pocketforests with an S.org. That's the website that we built, junction with this project. There's a 7-minute video telling you about pocket forests, and then up in the upper right corner, there's an FAQ button. And we just keep adding information as we discover, as we learn, as we think of things that might be helpful to people who are considering putting in pocket forests in their own spaces. So I'm glad to be with you here tonight to update you on the Buhr Park pocket forest in Ann Arbor. Sad to say, my co-presenter, imagine her right here, Lissa Spitz, COVID. I know, so she rightly stayed at home, and Lissa, if you're watching, wow, we miss you. So, okay, so the first part of the talk tonight will be a recap of what we did, and then we'll get into how it's going and how we hope the concept will spread. Well, a little bit about me. Growing up in the suburbs of some great cities, Detroit, Buenos Aires, Philadelphia, a manicured lawn was all the rage. We lived by the Scots 4-step method and frequently visited formal gardens. So here I am sporting hip hugger super bells
at Longwood Gardens in Kennett Square. Can you tell it was the 70s? When it was time to begin making my own gardens, I adopted the English cottage style, paying attention to colors, to textures, to scents. And those gardens were full of bearded iris, bleeding hearts, peony, climbing and shrub roses, sedum, and much more, all with an idea toward attracting pollinators. But I didn't really know the difference between attracting pollinators and helping pollinators. My aha moment came with a volunteer Canada goldenrod there on the left. Around the corner from that is a lowly sedum that had 5 bees, maybe 1 or 2 species. The goldenrod, on the other hand, was absolutely vibrant. It was mesmerizing. It was impossible to count how many individuals or species were feasting. And that did it. From there, I was hooked. I studied the Wild Ones native garden design for Toledo to get ideas on plant combinations, because my technique is to swap things out, plant this, not that. And I joined the movement. Seeds to Community was an important way for me to build my knowledge base, with the goal being 80% Michigan natives. The photo in the center shows the little berm that replaced the lawn in front of the house. That is a red twig dogwood, encouraged to become a privacy hedge over years and years. And it's a great privacy hedge with asters. And then the one on the right is from this spring in a different part of the front yard. So in the front, it's prairie smoke, surrounded by prairie dropseed, a couple little ostrich fern, and then behind that, 2 kinds of Joe Pye, big blue stems, cup, compass, the whole shooting match. I'm committed to creating an ecosystem and a corridor for connecting with like-minded neighbors down the street and around the corner. Oh, here's Lissa. She's a climate warrior. She's an architect practicing sustainability design and a great collaborator. And I hope you'll get to hear from her in another presentation. All right. Miyawaki Forest. Pocket forests go by many names. Mini forest, pocket forest, micro forest, tiny forest. Buhr Park, by botanist Akira Miyawaki over 60 years ago. He used terms like green screen, green belt, grove. The method consists of intensive soil preparation, native plants, as you can see in this slide, at a variety of heights, dense planting, care and watering for 2 to 3 years until the plants are established. And the result is extremely fast growth. Here's Dr. Miyawaki. Pocket forests are one more way to reduce lawns, establish healthy ecosystems, and build community. They support Wild One's mission pillars: education, advocacy, and collaborative action. Dr. Miyawaki pioneered this method on industrial sites in Japan, and he also planted many in forests along coastal ridges to mitigate erosion. And then this slide shows a forest with that pathway through it at planting, July 2018, and then just a year later. Pretty great. There are many benefits to a pocket forest. I don't know that you can read all those little pieces. They provide fuel. They dampen sound pollution, intercept rainfall, offer habitat, store carbon, feed life, abate wind, build soil, counter climate change, cool keep islands, improve health, and clean air. Oh, and that list makes me want to get planting right now. So I'm going to go. Yeah, just a little more for me. Communication between trees. The plants share nutrients. They grow healthier. They support each other, and they're more structurally sound. Suzanne Simard's groundbreaking research helped our team a lot. She has some great videos on YouTube, especially Mother Trees and the Social Forest. Are any of you familiar with her work?
Okay.
Yeah, great.
For sure, everybody's said what's up there, it doesn't show up.
It was pure serendipity that brought together an environmentalist, an architect, a lawyer, a scientist, a preschool teacher, and a librarian. This is the team. We are the Power Rangers that are working on this forest. Barbara and Lissa are affiliated with the Citizens Climate Lobby. Janine spearheaded the Buhr Park Children's Wet Meadow Project, and all of us are wildlands members. We first met, look this up, ladies. We first met October 5th, 2023, so happy anniversary. Took a full year of weekly meetings to plan and organize the planting. Search was fueled by curiosity and prioritized around organizations that have established practices and procedures for creating pocket forests. The closest one is in Hamilton, Ontario. We also found useful information from groups in the Netherlands and Australia, and Joan would like to organize a road trip. This information helped us determine the decisions that we would need to make in the short, medium, and long term. And then you can see on the left some of those decisions. Each of those has a lot of supporting documents and spreadsheets. And then this map shows pocket forests around the world. There are at least 50 in Canada, and we just want to light up that map. Locally, there are organizations that want to help. Here are the ones who funded our project. There are others too. So Ann Arbor Farm and Garden, Wildflower Association of Michigan, City of Ann Arbor, not only the Forestry Department, but the Elizabeth Dean Fund Committee. At this point, the Buhr Park project budget is right around $14,000. And the major expenses were tilling the Miyawaki part and the sturdy and reusable 8-foot deer fence that surrounds the forest. There were many enthusiastic suppliers of plant material. The major native plant nurseries in our area wanted to be part of this project. When the Washtenaw County Conservation District heard about it, they created special pocket forest bundles as their way of spreading the word about this interesting way of planting. So during their spring, not sure about fall, they have native plant pocket forest bundles that you can purchase. So they're bundles of trees and shrubs of varying heights. Throughout this project, we've become adept at using Google Docs, sheets, and slides. We made detailed spreadsheets of which plants were coming from which source, and then checked in several times with the growers to be sure that those plants were actually thriving and in good shape to be delivered to the forest. One of our lessons learned is that some seeds will fail to germinate, and we had about a 20% loss rate from our original. Consists of 3 different soil preparation methods. In a sense, we Goldilocks it. So the two quadrants on the lower part of this, no. Okay, now I see what we are, sorry. The two quadrants on the upper part of this screen are the Miyawaki inspired areas. So those are the areas that receive the deep tillage. Then on the right is the lasagna soil prep layer, talk about that in a second, and then the wood chip bed. Lissa was able to bring her great skills in creating this map. And you know what? It's harder to randomize planting than you would think. That was a real trick. And that's what those triangles and squares and circles represent, just trying to coordinate randomization. Good luck with that, is what I'm seeing. And then you can also see the letters vertically, the numbers horizontally. We laid out string and sticks. We made a grid, and then we used leftover tiles from one of our household project and a Sharpie, and then labeled each of the squares. And that's how we're tracking and measuring and documenting each of the plants in each square. Planting Day, October 20th, 2024. Were any of you there? Oh, yay. It was a great day. It was gorgeous. There were 65 volunteers, 300 plants, 45 species in 2,500 square feet. We started around 9 a.m. and we're finished around 2 p.m. And the plants, we had wheelbarrows and 5-gallon buckets. The plants were dumped in compost, or dumped in compost tea to give them a strong start. Here's one of the Miyawaki quadrants on planting day, left, and almost a year later on the right. On planting day, the smallest plant was a 2-inch bur oak, and the largest was, I think, a 72-inch sycamore. And really, there was anything in between. So this preparation method is the most expensive. We use a small excavator to dig trenches, and depending on the degree of soil compaction, the depth varied from about 18 inches to 24 inches. So the contractor mixed that removed soil with clean composted soil, scores bags of rotted leaves gathered from other sites and wood chips provided by the city. Then return that increased soil to the bed to promote beneficial fungal growth and decaying organic material, followed by a strong mulch over the surface. So we just let that go. And then here are the those two Miyawaki. I'm looking pretty good, but it's really interesting that there's a difference between them. More to mention. In comparison, on the left is the lasagna method. That's the moderately priced one. So that's cut the grass short, layer cardboard, moisten the cardboard, 4 inches of soil compost, dead leaves, and then 4 inches of wood chips over that milk grass. And then on the right is what we're calling the simple method. It's the low budget method. And that's just cut the grass short, 8 inches of wood chips. So enough to kill the grass, but no other amendments. Basics. Now, on to where we are, what we're observing and learning. One of the major goals of our problem, increasing biodiversity. We know the plants will improve the soil and saw evidence of that as early as planting day. Because even before the contractor came, we did a soil sample. It was such dense clay. It was crazy, just crazy. And then on planting day, putting a shovel into especially the Miyawaki was like butter. It was just amazing, the difference in the soil. We were lucky to have Kat Scott join our team at this critical point. She's professor emeritus of biology at Eastern Michigan University, and she also taught for over 20 summers at the University of Michigan Biological Station. She's particularly known for her research on the interaction between herbivorous insects and plants. And she's really excited to be able to apply her scientific experience to help monitor the animals in pocket plants. There's so much biodiversity to monitor. Insects, other invertebrates, birds, mammals, like gulls, fungi, and microbes in the soil. Measuring the tree and shrub growth has two components: stem diameter and height. Carbon sequestration is determined using a complex formula. So let's put a hard maybe next to this data point. We know we're increasing the biomass part both above and below ground, which will be a significant improvement over the depth of turf. The team is currently researching how we'll measure soil changes and improvements. Anticipated future expenses are a winter cover crop of clover, continued watering for 2 more years, straw bales, and permanent signs. Maintenance is essentially a measure of labor. Weeding, there's ethics involved in a pocket forest. Should we trim the thuggish elderberries, or should we pull them out? So lots of decision making going on. Moving the straw bales because we didn't realize that we had built luxury condominiums for voles. So there's a lot more to do. Educational opportunities are talks like this one, going out to public events, engaging with elementary schools, high schools, Girl Scout groups. Community building is a really interesting part of this. Doug Reef from Washtenaw County Conservation District went to the park and set up an iNaturalist perimeter about 2 times the size. Are any of you iNaturalist users? Oh, great. So visit the park. So anytime you take a picture, that will be recorded there. And we really want those measures, that data. And then the ripple effect, that we're getting more and more requests through the website of people who are interested in planting it on their own. So we're just seeing it starting to ripple out. Well, yes, our commitment is to water heavily for 3 years. So watering heavily means weekly, May through October. It's essentially hand watering because a fine person brings the big truck with the water and a hose to the park. And then they go to each of the 300 plants and they do a 10 count every week. And that's what they need for the first 3 weeks to really get, the first 3 years to really get established. Now we've established watering costs for 2025, so we can anticipate and apply for funding for 26 and 27. Here's some of the signage that's in place now at Buhr Park. It's one of Ann Arbor's largest and most used public park. The Buhr Park Children's Wet Meadow Project first installed wet meadows more than 20 years ago profound reducing and managing what had been serious water runoff. And it introduced both the city and the community to the beauty and benefits of native plants. The park is now a source for city supervised seed gathering each fall. And we're working with a team, and actually some of the people who worked on these actual signs are going to help us produce similar interpretive signs to help people understand what they're seeing at the park and how spaces. So while all this was happening, Barbara Lucas wanted more, because she always wants more. She wanted to try a much smaller project, pocket forest in another setting. So here's one over at County Buhr Park. Okay, the good news, this one is right next to a water spigot. The bad news, it doesn't have an 8. So we'll see what happens. But it shows that, a couple of people can get it done. We're really excited to come up with a number of landscapers who are willing to try this for clients. And folks are writing into the Pocket Forest's website to tell us about endeavors or to ask for advice. And we recently created a new share list. So we're tracking the little seedlings that are popping up in our yards and that we're willing to give away. So should anyone want to do this, let us know, because we've got some seedlings and saplings for you. But what are some of the interim steps that you could do? If you think that a whole proper pocket forest is just beyond you right now, Barbara has offered to come to your house and plant. So if you provide the mulch and the compost, if you're responsible for fencing, weeding, watering, she'll give you labor, she'll give you guidance, she'll get those trees planted. Another thing you can do is create and do a whole bunch. Do 5, do 6, do 3. Plant a couple of trees closer together. One of the things that the island does is it provides a greater circle around all those trees. So the mowers aren't going right up, weed whackers aren't going right up, and those trees have such a better chance of making it. Another thing you could do is create a privacy screen of native saplings. I don't know if you saw, Margaret Roach has a column in the New York Times, and she talked about this just a week or 2 ago. There's a whole column on how you could take, just 8 feet wide, and then it can be as long as you want, 20 feet, 50 feet, whatever you've got. And don't be put off by the size and scope of the Buhr Park project. We know it's big. The beauty of it is that it's a demonstration project. It's a learning place. If you're curious and excited and want to try to do it, do. We've created, you should each have a little bookmark called Pocket Forest Principles to guide you on a small scale in an urban yard, rural yard. This is totally doable. The Pocket Forest Principles are also on the website. And the city has been so interested and supportive. We've been giving these away as part of the 10,000 Trees initiative. So when people get a tree, they get these principles to help them ensure the success of that tree. So other medium to long-term goals include world peace. And also extending the current partnerships. So the Conservation District Tool Program, want to make sure that they have good tools in there to help with this kind of work. The tree bundles, how can we help them expand that? Creating a standalone program parallel to the Master Rain Gardens program. Seems like it will be doable. And facilitating creation of a shared data aggregator so that the Buhr Park can be comparable to your park, to something in Wayne County, to something wherever. Just so that we can compare apples to apples, we can understand more about what our neighbors are doing and how we can help each other. For now, we're partnering with existing institutions, and there are many who are advancing similar. Here's one that's all grown up. Momentum for these projects with multiple approaches is building. There's a terrific article in the July 22nd, 25 New York Times called "In New Jersey." Any of you saw that? It's pretty long. And I think Doug Tallamy's quoted in that one. And he says, the downsides are few and the potential benefits could be large. Because the forests start with small saplings and seedlings and require little maintenance after the first few years, he said microforests are one of the cheapest options for boosting nature and biodiversity in cities. Thank you, Doctor. So, in conclusion, please visit our website, watch the informational video, and check out the FAQ page up in the right corner. On the website, you'll find a recording of the June 18th webcast about pocket forests. It was a panel discussion, and Doug Tallamy was one of those panelists. The pocket forest principle half sheet, and we hope you'll consider building a small forest in your landscape. And if you do, we want to know about it. So now let's open up for questions and discussions. I don't know if we can get discussions via Zoom, but it's interesting to know your perspectives. Yeah.
Can I make just a couple of questions?
Yeah.
Well, we look into that. Just a few quick things and then your questions. One is Joan Martin is here watching this today. Joan was on this team and was the person who researched and made the compost tea that we use. Consider adding manure into them and other adventures. So thank you, Joan. Also in the contributions, the sources of plants, one that Meg forgot to mention was wild ones.
My gosh.
We had lots of donations of plants.
We did.
From you guys, from our membership, so that was vital. And then also this past summer, before we got to the truck and the nice young man who comes and waters the plants, we actually had a water brigade where volunteers, including Susan Margocious, who's here, and others, carried 25 1-gallon jugs, which they had filled with water at their homes, brought them to Buhr Park, carried them up the hill, and used them to water a portion of the forest that each volunteer had signed up to water for that week. It was a Herculean effort, and it was vital because, of course, Ann Arbor's been in mild drought, I guess, but we've been in drought for at least 2-3 years now. The plants needed to be watered, and this forest is sparse in water. So Meg is one who lined up the now better approach. But we did have the water brigade, and those folks were indispensable as well. Thanks for letting me add that in. I'm going to hand this back to Meg. Questions and comments?
Yeah. Yes. What is your why don't you say it into the mic so the folks at home.
That way, you
Sites waves through this, but try you guys like it's due to the stuff in your heat's 24 inches. And it's full and you look good.
Great, so, and the question, and then mulch over it, right, so you said it's like butter, so two-part question. Where did the new compost come from, and how long between the soil prep to the planting that it is important when you?
I was thinking of that. Thank you for that question. I was thinking of that as I was saying it out loud. Somebody's gonna ask how long it was. Was it 6 months?
From when we did soil prep in the spring and planted in October, so more or less.
April, like April to October?
Yeah.
And yes, Joan.
I was just want to add. We did that, and there are some drawbacks to doing that, a great deal of effort to keep plants ready for plants all the way.
Which one has the picture?
And in India, for instance,
This look is
raised
camera.
plants, they prepare the soil in that same way. Very extensive work, and within a few days, they're getting their plants. I think next time I'd like to do that.
Yeah. And then where the new compost came.
The city of Ann Arbor.
Oh, City of Ann Arbor.
City of Ann Arbor.
Thank you. Other. Yeah.
How do you decide what plants you're going to use?
Oh,
How did you choose between like different oak species or other, like what made you decide?
yes. That was a lot of the fun research and a little bit of arm wrestling, a little bit of drawing on all of our experience from having grown or seen these trees growing and deciding, you know, who plays well with each other and with others. Some species, black walnut, took off the list, and you know, some just kind of self-selected and are standing somewhere else. And
We went with what we could get too. I
yes,
mean, it wasn't super planful.
yes,
We excluded some things.
yes,
But we had volunteers contributing plants and we had nurseries growing what they could grow.
and even some of the things that we wished for and hoped for didn't germinate. Yeah.
Follow up to, which was a great question. Which ones did not make it? And then you mentioned a burr oak. And I don't recall how long this follow-up is from when you planted it. So I don't know how many years. How tall is that burr oak at this point, and how many years has passed? And then which ones the ones that didn't make it?
Right. We're just coming up on 1 year from planting. And I should have gone out to measure that little.
It's still small.
It's still small.
Small.
Yeah.
Oh, above ground.
Yeah.
We expect below ground.
Good point. Okay. Okay, yeah. Yeah, and then what didn't make it? Some of the hickories?
We had, Jackie Cortol gave us, I think, 30 red oaks.
Yes.
And we lost a lot of those. They were small. And I haven't counted yet. We've been out gathering the census data, but we haven't compiled it.
Yeah.
So we lost a lot of those. And frankly, we have elderberry in there that shaded them and prevented rain from getting through to them. So that's I'm sorry. So yeah, we lost a lot of red oaks there. And we noticed that a lot of them that died were under or near these fast growing shade umbrellas.
Right.
Of the elderberry shrubs, but it's not just trees. I don't know what the ratio is trees to shrubs, but woodies in the forest. And so there's speculation about why they died. Maybe we didn't give them enough water. Some have survived, and as Joan said, they're still small. Many of the other plants have grown larger, but that's typical of that species because they're very busy growing down.
And I wouldn't say if something failed, I wouldn't say that, oh, that's not a good candidate for pocket forest. It's just a combination. I mean, really, there could have been some bull under there eating it from the ground up. So could have been anything.
With this area that you're mentioning, like you mentioned like that whole consideration of the fishing guide, is that like trimming anything to like prevent other seeds from dying or not? Did you decide that?
Yeah, and that was decision making relating to weeds too. Was it keeping Charlie stay or go? Is there a benefit? And how much is enough and how much is too much? So we're kind of taking it plant by plant. And I think with elderberry, we said we're gonna trim.
We're gonna prune when they're dormant.
Yeah,
Meg,
yes.
Amy Griffiths has a question online. Have you noticed significant differences in growth rate between the different soil prep methods, especially for a given species like the oaks?
Yes. Very, very dramatically. And we saw it a little bit in the slide, even the difference in the two Miyawaki beds. You know, their soil prep is the same, but their sun exposure, their slope is a little different, and that's all having an effect. And the lasagna, they're doing okay. But the simple method, it's not gonna be 2 or 3 years and they're crazy. It's gonna take longer. Because I think that's one of the things we're learning off the bat is adding those nutrients really helps. Yeah.
So it sounds like the, most successful because you aerate the soil in addition to adding the soil in, whereas the lasagna and the other methods don't have that deep aeration to get the nutrients in there. Did I get that right? Okay. The other question I was wondering, did you guys select redwoods by chance? Why not?
Well, yes, and redwoods selected us. There are a number that have just happily materialized that we never planned. And that was one of those real, tightrope discussions. Oh, redbuds. And then others were like, yes, redbuds. And part of that is, this is a demonstration project. Redbuds are gorgeous in the spring. We want things that are gonna help people see what this is and recognize some of the trees that they see in their home landscapes. So there are some, there's one in the pathway. I don't know what's gonna happen to that one, but it's right in the pathway.
So the reason I ask this question is I recognize redbuds as sumacs are pioneer species, which is why it kind of is a question on mine about the success rate, because we're trying to put in these large species like oaks, but traditionally they're not exposed in this kind of environment. They're usually pioneer species first, right? So that's why I was asking this question, like how you guys balance that out to help them all grow. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah, you wanna answer that, Meg?
well, let me see what I'm gonna say, and you say,
Yeah.
you say more. I think that was part of the spreadsheet. When we were listing the species, we were tracking which were pioneer species. So that when we tried to engineer randomization, they'd be spread around and be able to somehow help their neighbors.
Yeah, I'm gonna add, and this is personal, I'm not sure if everybody on our working group agrees, but I would also say this is not something that occurs naturally without pretty heavy duty human engagement. And this is partly a climate response. This is partly recognition that there are urban areas that are very small and people think they're too small to have trees, and we'd like people to know that's not true. So the long evolutionary process by which pioneers come in and grow in rich soil, and then that's good enough for some of the slower growing things, and they come in, and then they shade out pioneers, and those disappear. All of that isn't gonna happen here, and this isn't designed to replicate that. And it is also not expected that anything like everything we planted will survive. This will grow densely and fast, and a fairly high death rate is actually expected. But, so we're not trying to get to a goal on those things, we're trying to observe and see what we can.
It's similar to what you mean by a fairly high dense crop, that's right.
No, I can't.
90 acres.
No, I can't, because I don't know.
Yeah,
80% of what we planted will not grow.
I don't know, I wouldn't guess 80% would die, but I honestly do not know.
experimental.
It's very experienced.
Okay, that's, okay, thank you.
Just maybe it'd be, that's like that experiment might be a reason for having an annual presentation for up, or rule. Sure, of course, sure. Yeah, here.
Meg? Barbara online asks, have you noticed presence of jumping worms? Any difference in which sections they were more visible than others?
Okay. No, we're being, no, not together. Yeah, the question was whether we have chickens here. And I am answering because at current, I have jumping worms. So I've had a year of experience, very unhappy experience with them. And I have been on the lookout at the pocket forest. And I am pretty confident that we do not have jumping worms there.
And Celia also online also asks, how old were the wood chips that were used? I know fresh wood chips can rob nutrients as they initially broken down, correct? Maybe yours would have broken down enough as you waited for the grass to die, or could that have contributed to why the wood chips only cheap method didn't work as well?
Yeah, the question was, how new were the wood chips? Had they started to break down? And I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say they were fairly new wood chips supplied by the city. And I'm not writing off the simple group yet. I mean, it might just take longer for them to come along. And as you know, native plant people, we know that. We know that a lot of these plants take a long time, and that's okay. It's just what do you want, you know? But that's really interesting to know if fresher wood chips are having a detrimental effect.
Or they have that wood chips generally just rob the nitrogen at the surface unless you till them into the soil.
Yeah. And that was some guidance that we received just recently. Yeah, which is.
Since this is the kind of project that you can't like really restart or like amend after it's been done, can you talk a bit more about planning stage and the importance of being ready and prepared when the time comes? Just, I guess, like, fortunately, how important is the planning? Like execution.
Yeah.
Is there anything to do differently?
Oh, okay. Yeah, so how important is the planning and what would we do differently? So we've started a whole document of lessons learned, and I think it's just about ready to go up on that FAQ, and there are a number of things that are included in the FAQs, like where shouldn't you put a pocket forest? You know, because we spent a lot of time kind of shopping Buhr Park and figuring out where's the best place in that park for a pocket forest. And some of it was proximity to a pathway and, you know, visibility, people being able to see it. Thank goodness, now it's, we have that pathway, but it was tough to show that picture of the truck, just like on the grass, just further compacting, but what are you gonna do? I think the planning was really important. I think the planning put us on the same page. It forced us to anticipate some of these issues, and it helped us see that it's dynamic, things are gonna change, it's not gonna go the way we expected it to, and that's okay. So I think we're in a very kind of relaxed place now, observing and documenting, and we don't really know, and it's okay not to.
Yeah, Joe, before I ask, you say. Well, I don't think you're saying marketing plans for the project. You don't mean that, you mean something about planning.
Oh, yeah, I guess for something like this where everything happens all at once, you do it and then you're hands off forever.
Oh, but are you?
Yeah, I guess that's planting, in terms of adding more plant material.
Well, in terms of it intervening, or I guess you're talking about after a certain point, how active,
Oh.
how much management. goes in.
Oh, okay. All right, I would say we're very hands-on now, and we're about to be way more hands-on because of the weeding, the pruning, it was the voles, reestablishing the grid and freshening the markers so that our data collection will be accurate.
We're gonna put clover on the heavy wood chip,
Yep, putting the cover crop of clover.
get some nitrogen.
So, we expect this hands-on to continue through 26 and 27. I think some of our funders are hoping that deer fence can then be picked up and put somewhere else in somebody else's demonstration project of a pocket forest. And I'm hopeful that after those 3 years, we can back off a little bit, but we'll see. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
Celia online also asks, when might you consider ground layer species other than creeping Charlie? LOL. And cover crop of clover?
Yeah.
Missed that.
Yeah.
I was thinking more of natives once there's a bit of shade.
Yeah. Sure. I'm not sure what to say. I think that, Jonathan has an opinion.
No, I don't, oh, yes. Just point out a couple of corollaries, right? One, the rain garden program, which is super popular, they can millions of plants all the time. They also put lots of compost or suggest that as part of their prep. I'm not convinced of that. Usually I put plants in that match the space. Is there a lot of water? Is there less? Is there dry? I think the species that you put in did not slant towards dry soils. The trees were just a mixture of things, right?
Yep.
So you didn't request dry soil species, first of all. And my question, that's an opinion, is I would expect this to be really darkly shaded within another year and a half, maybe in different areas, different. So I would expect almost nothing to grow underneath. Do we know about that from the Miyawaki guides?
Yes, and that's exactly, thanks. That's exactly what we're planning on from the Miyawaki research. That forest floor won't support wild strawberries. That it'll be more like the woods that you walk in.
It'll be a very densely dark woods.
Yeah,
Right.
without room to get in there.
Yeah, once when you say, oh, we're just getting out of here.
Brush blade might get you some, I don't know.
So we do have a couple pack. Yes. I'm curious, like, for the Miyawaki project, you know, like, that older word. Like, sorry, with the branching. Yeah, well, I think the branching, that's such a great question. I think branching is definitely affected by the closeness of their neighbors. They don't have that classic shape.
Yeah, this will mimics like a rainforest.
Not yet.
These are not the forest.
I mean, not yet,
But I mean, yeah, I mean, the
yeah. Did you mean like the slide with the 47-year-old forest?
yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes.
They just had more question. So with respect to the compost, was someone asked about the wood chips. What made you guys select, because they mentioned the wood chips take longer to break down and that might affect results. So what made you guys choose wood chips as opposed to, let's say, you could have used, say it's compost exactly, but you could use pine needles or old leaves from the prior year that aren't fully composted, but would have been degraded much quicker than wood chips. This is the first question. To follow planning, do you guys have like a process steps that you guys have like long term of exactly how you went through the planning stages? And I think that's a follow up to your question of like, what were the exact planning steps you guys had?
Yeah. With the wood chips, my sense is we did use tons of leaves in various stages of composition. Many of them, well, they came from everywhere,
But not on the wood chip bed.
but not on the wood chip bed. But they came from all of our units. They came from the food forest. They came from our County Farm Park. The wood chips were added, I think, just for volume.
The wood chips were to suppress the grass. I think, no,
The ones mixed in with the
Oh, yeah.
Miyawaki amended soil.
oh.
Yeah, and I don't think it was a huge amount.
I mean, I knew the wood chip, and then you had the Milwaukee. I was just wondering why wood chips, not just the using the other materials.
I mean, honestly, I think, well, I mean, wood chips they do break down.
Eventually,
Yes, and the beds where they've been mixed with the soil are doing pretty well. We got a lot of material from the city of Ann Arbor free. So price, availability. I have one small bed at home where I put down pine needles because this is my experiment for making the environment less friendly to jumping worms, which don't like acidity. We'll see, but they're expensive. Pine needle compost is expensive. So, I mean, the reality here is access to resources and the ability to pay for resources. Those are limiting factors.
And then we'll get back to the steps.
okay, so I was just gonna say,
Yeah,
for indoor things, I use a lot of like wood chips, so like old bark. Like, there, yeah, there.
thank you. Yes,
Really, so this is just a comment. that
sure.
Just remember that this was an experiment, right, largely, and so that wood chip then wasn't done expecting that that was gonna be the best, or no, somewhere. But it might be best in one respect, which is it's easier and it takes less to get it started.
Right, exactly. I was just asking because as a homeowner that might want to do this, you know, they might have access to leaves or pine needles versus wood chips.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked this question. What made you guys decide?
Sure, and that's pretty much what the lasagna method is meant to address. If you can do, you know, if you can go to Costco and get some cardboard, you know, you can somehow wet the cardboard. You can get 4 inches of some kind of organic material that's mostly. And then 4 inches of wood chips on top of that. That's much. Yeah, oh, I'm sorry.
I just have a couple of comments. If you're planning to use pine needles, they're very acidic and will prevent a lot of things from growing. I moved here from Washington State. There are lots and lots and lots of them. Also, we started a rain garden 4 years ago, and after 2 years, all the wood chips had already broken down a lot in amendment soil. In fact, we had to put more in. So I wouldn't say that it takes a long time for them to de.
They do return their cutting curve, right?
I'm sorry,
How long did you say it took the winter because they already broke down?
in a couple of years, now those were fresh, right off of the tree chips. But it didn't take long. In fact, the ones that we put down this year, we'll have to put more down next year.
A lot of the Miyawaki publications are avid cases, but to give you virtual methodology. But the ones that are available in English or translated say he's trying to replicate mature forest soil, and he used rice straw organic material primarily, but mixed into the soil, which doesn't seem like a great idea because rice straw breaks down possibly slow as wood chips. But he was trying to replicate basically secondary succession. So he used, if you remember, these are industrial sites where there wasn't topsoil at all, being scraped away. So actually similar to what the Buhr Park environment was, where they was deep digging this compacted, very much not organic soil, just a little tiny bit of organic material on the surface. So actually what they were doing for Park, mixing in wood chips, even though it's just less expensive, it's actually very similar to what people did in this for Olympics outside the factory in Japan. And because replicate also fruits that remain after a major windstorm or fire, so you'd be getting material underground. Yeah, it ties up carbon a bit, but you're trying to replicate that secondary succession. Sorry. Just another thing about a previous question actually is that these forests are all fairly small. So they're basically all edge. They're really not interior forest habitat in the later stages of development. But like Jonathan said, within 5 years, you're going to have like very dense woody coverage, and you're not going to have a lot of like penetrating through forest, or even less than mature forest. So it's not have secondary succession technique. But it does affect the plants that are going to thrive there. It's going to have a lot of light at the edges, like forever. So that's where you're not going to have like a mature natural roots there. And Miyawaki should do this so-called central natural vegetation survey, and he was using it. And trying to replicate a species of mix from those sacred groves in the nearest areas to the sacred grove. So if you want to look into that, that is the method of determining what should be there or to be wild. But it's not, because those sacred groves are much bigger than the patches he was planting. I have a little bit of a question about whether that's the best. So there's not a lot of data. We're glad to see the data. There's not a lot of data out there about how effective this is for long.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That's what I tell. Do you guys have a network? Like network, do you guys stages? Or is that data of what you're observing being shared with those groups?
It depends. Because if you're part of one of those groups, then your data is shared. And right now, there are these different standalone groups that have their data. So what we're pushing for at least in this geographic area, is what can we get going on that would compare, I mean, let's just even say pocket forests in southeast Michigan. Start there and build it out, build it out, build it out, and make it easy for people to act. Make it easy for people to add their data. That would be.
And maybe in closing,
Yeah.
Meg, I think that I appreciate some of the help you gave us.
Yeah.
We deliberately don't refer to our forest as a Miyawaki. And you could make a case we shouldn't refer to it as forest either, but got about so much. But it's Miyawaki inspired,
Yeah.
is how I think of it. For the fundamentals are native plants, native woodies, dense planting. And I think there's one other, yes, but we have deviated in any number of ways from the true Miyawaki effort. And we're interested in what works and doesn't. And getting people, not necessarily to do even a micro forest, but to do like the eco islands. The notion that we plant anything, plant native plants, that's what wild ones, just plant native plants. But those can include woody native plants, even in very small spaces. And if we show nothing else, that's valuable.
Great. Well, thank you for your attention. And again, don't hesitate to go to the website, ask a question there, visit the FAQs. Hope to see you in the forest.
Great job. Except that I forgot to raise.
Was she?
Oh.
So what's up?
And we can protect them. Which, Robin here, the down here. What about ready? Hold it later. But here and the house there. Yes. We're gonna borrow your table, Bob. Thank you so much. Kind of turn out. Should I be Chinese?